Easy Yee, how are we?
I'm jealous. I've seen a lot of people out there doing a few 10Ks. The old Dunshaughlin 10K was on. The
Yeah.
Thoroughbred 10K half and full were on. And I got to read my book on bees. Terrible weekend for the lads.
Oh,
Although I did spend a portion of my day going around looking for rehabilitation facilities. Swimming access is coming soon. Anyone out there want to sponsor me a membership?
no.
Yeah, so it's getting to that point, but yeah, I was quite jealous. I felt because even Kate was going running the 10K, and it was like, do you want to come? It's like, yeah, well, I'm gonna park with my friends and then walk down 20 minutes into the town. I'm like, nah.
20, no, not that. Double that for you. Double that and hop along in that 22, 23 degree heat. Fair play to anyone running today. The
It was
heat
hot.
seemed unreal. Yeah, I got out I was running from 7:30 to 9 and near the tail end of that, and I got dragged along for a 16K. Half was a 5-minute pace, and I suffered. I suffered a lot of my training this weekend, actually, but it seemed pretty hot out there today for the
Yeah,
events.
definitely seem warm now. In fairness, look, for a 10K, it's doable. It's not easier, but taking on a marathon and that, that's a sporty all day out. It's so yeah, well done to everyone over the weekend. There's been a lot of good running and the excitement building. Then the summer seasons and series all kicking off. It is great. It's great to see. It's great when the weather picks up as well. I was sad today because I was just sitting watching all my friends go and playing, and you're just sitting inside like, what a waste of a day, so.
Well, I'm sad as well because this week you're supposed to do the hybrid series Ireland with me. Shout out to Rachel, a previous guest of the podcast that's on later in the week. My good friend Amy's going to drag me around the course instead of I was hoping to drag you around once again, like I got to give you your Christmas present last December. But that's another one coming up this weekend that you, sir, are missing.
Yeah, it's don't worry. Don't worry. Although I'm going to become an expert at saunas and swimming pools now, I think. So yeah, we go to physio this week and then see what they come back with. But that'll be the plan anyway. I have to start doing something. I'm lifting weights, but I have to do something cardio wise. I just feel pathetic. Now people are going to say you are anyway, but for my own mental space, I need to do something. You know that we always say, you say if you're not sweating, you're not trying. So like you go in, you lift weights, you just feel like you've done nothing though. You do feel like you've done.
Well, I've done that lately. Like, so I've done a lot of weight training in the last couple of months, and I've done a lot of zone 2 running. So this weekend, and because the hybrid series coming up, and I was hoping to do trike a couple of weeks later, and I just different reasons I haven't been able to do intervals just because my body is an absolute heat. My lower back's gone twice this year so far. Hamstring and groin aren't really playing ball, but I'm able to run at a certain pace. I'm like a 1 or 2 out of 10 pain. But I tried like a mini High Rocks half series, like so kind of like just in the gym by myself. So instead of a 1K ski or a 1K rower or 80 meters burpees, half that down. And then I was working on Saturday. I wore the wrong pair of Jordans. I'm like, I'm not getting injured further in my calf, so I'll do 1K on the bike instead of going running. Oh man, by the time I got that burpees, I was probably 30 meters in, and thankfully no one there. Just the head was in the ground going, ooh, I haven't got that fitness. And it's zone 2 is great, don't get me wrong, and I believe in the 80-20 and all the rest, but I do honestly believe that you need to train yourself going to that well, train yourself going to like that limit of where you want to give up. I'm never going to be an elite or anything like that, but I'm half decent at longer runs going, okay, 5 hours done a D. I'll hang in there. The body's a bit, but I'm able to go a certain distance or the longer runs I've done. But that shorter distance, that flat out intervals and stuff, like you've been faster than me in 5Ks and 10Ks, but when I get to a certain point, I feel like at my best, I've been a small bit faster at the longer distance so far, just because you've done more, just the way it's been. But that 5K, you've owned me in that. You've gotten that sub 20 run, but I just feel like you need to train. Not always go to the well on it, but you need to learn to be to that hurt and stuff. I feel soft saying that, but I don't have that. I am hurting trying to push forward. Like that limiter is definitely there when the heart rate goes up really high. I'm struggling with that. And then there's a couple of 5Ks coming up in August. I'm kind of half eyeing, but I'm hoping the body's okay. And I'm like, right, you're really gonna have to suffer. And it really shows the difference between training for 5Ks and marathons to me.
Yeah, it's and it like you've in my experience, you know, like look, we don't go out and we do that going to the well every run, and that's
No.
probably a mistake we have made in the past. Is every 5K was a 5K PB effort, but as you have correctly said, a race pace or better than race pace intervals, be it over 200 meters, 400 meters, you know, up to 800, 1K repeats, whatever the criteria will be, it does teach you a little bit about staying and that staying power, you know, when you're
Yes.
maxed out and just that ability to turn off that little voice and be like 100 more meters or 200 more meters or 1 more kilometer or whatever the case may be. It is definitely the little callus in that brain that you're like, please shut up. I know it's hard. But that definitely comes with practice. That's
Yeah.
that 100%. You can't, you do get unused to it, I suppose,
Hmm.
because I haven't gone to that well in a while. Now, you did the odd interval session, but I fear it more. Whereas I had built myself up to a point where I actually didn't look forward to it, but I enjoyed it because the numbers were good and the reps were staying in. And it was a case of, you know, instead of getting 4 by 400, it was going to 8 by or 12 by, you know, and then it was like, okay, maybe we need to increase the distance, you know. So and being able to go to that well, you just feel better afterwards. I always find when you come through that hard session. Um,
Absolutely.
Whereas the conversational pace is great as long as you have people to run with. So when you're when you're conversational pace with yourself, it gets a bit boring after a while. But it's no, it is definitely something, and that's one thing. When we go back to the basics, when I actually think the most consistent we were when we had a very kind of prescribed week. We had 4 or 5 runs in a week. A Monday was always a recovery. A Wednesday was always an interval session,
Mm.
and then whatever it was, and a long run was always a Sunday. We had the 3 core ones, and then it was how you feel on either side. And I always think back to when we were running really, really well. That worked,
Yeah.
you know. And
Well,
even
we
if
built
we
to that.
yeah, 100%. But I always felt that core session and that max effort session or that sweaty session, um, I always just found it to be most important. That 20% was a really important 20%. But I do miss it now because although my hips are a little bit looser because I've nothing else to do, only stretch and limited on that because it's always seated and lying down and stronger on the weights and they're going up, but I just feel like I'm doing nothing. It's hard to see a change in yourself or a difference. You actually feel the opposite. So yeah, I'm gonna have to try find sauna and a pool. At least if I can sit in there for a half hour, I'll be like, yeah, I did it.
Well, at least you get the competitive juices going, right? 15 to 16 minutes, 16 to 17, 20, especially when you get some of those real hot saunas. But I just want to touch real quick on the intervals and that one, just in case someone misunderstands what we're saying there. I think David McCarthy was in the podcast before, and he said it brilliantly that your first interval should be like your last interval, but
Yeah.
like those last 3, 4, 5, like the first few feel good, but the last couple, you're still like you're saying there, and I think it's a great way of putting it, the calluses in the mind just to hang on and keep going, and you're at that. And I do think every once in a while, it's like you have to teach yourself to go to the well, whether that is signing up to races. I'm not saying every race you race and there's A and B races, but I just think the mind, it plays such a big part in these races. You kind of have to train it sometimes to go, okay, where am I at? Like, so I don't like for my world's really the gym, and I don't like people going to failure all the time. But every so often, especially on something safe like a dumbbell press or something like that, you kind of have to go to fail to see where how many reps you're truly leaving the tank. Sometimes people do 10 reps and they'll go, right, let's go AMRAP, and they think they're going for 10. I'm like, all right, keep going, keep going, keep going. And all of a sudden they have 16, 17 reps. I'm like, what happened there? It's like you don't know where your true fail point is, and sometimes, like you just said a second ago, the way to put it is that calluses, and I don't have that at the intense stuff. But Look, we'll get there. There's ups and downs, peaks and troughs. We're low in the valley now, Eric, but there's only halfway through the year. We just passed the longest day of the year. I'm feeling positive for some reason, and I have no idea
No,
why. We'll get high.
that means it just gets dark and miserable from here on out. My God. But no, it is. It's great. And it's great to see the Any Given Run Day clan all out there getting some runs
Yeah.
in and giving me abuse along the way. I'll tell you, it's a
Shout
long
out to
time
Jamie.
coming. It's been a long time coming, but I hope they all enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, look, it's all that motivation. You're sitting
Here,
there
actually, there
stewing
was
over in the
another thing.
sauna.
Jer sent me a text. He's in Calgary and he was out for a run in his t-shirt, and someone shouted at him saying, "Love the podcast, Sean." He doesn't know if he's more
No
insulted
way.
someone thought he was you, or that he ran as slow as you. But either way, he thought it was cool to let us know that someone thought you
Maybe
were over.
he's in the gym, he's working on biceps, he's working on arms, and Jer, maybe the arms are looking good, or maybe it's all about that Any Given Run Day t-shirt. If you've got one of those out there, it means the arms are popping in those tees, and you can't look as good as these jacked up arms right here and now.
Well, to whoever is listening in Calgary, Canada, thanks very much. We do appreciate it. Keep going, keep abusing Jer, Sean. Actually, calling him Sean was actually great abuse.
Well, our guest last week was from Calgary, but who's our guest this week?
This week, Sean, is a very different week in comparison to last week. It's again, I'm actually really liking this phase where we're getting little insights into a few different sports, different concepts. It's refreshing because I have no running to talk about, so it's kind of nice to talk about other stuff.
Eric, quick question for you. What is the one thing Hyrox and triathletes, runners and gym goers all have in common?
They all like to take their clothes off to work out.
That's not what it's not.
Oh, sorry. I have the line. They're great at pushing themselves in training, but not always great at prioritizing recovery, Sean.
Excellent. You got it right second time. That is exactly why the Ultra Pure Hyrox Recovery Bundle is such a great addition to any training routine.
It's packed with 4 recovery essentials: Epsom salts for a post-workout soak, magnesium oil spray for tired muscles, muscle cramps and restless legs, Epsom salts gel with arnica for targeted support, and ice cold menthol gel, my favourite, for a refreshing cooling sensation after tough sessions.
You've been using that a lot lately anyway. So whether for your training, for your next Hyrox race, preparing for Trica, or putting in the miles for a running goal, recovery is just as important as the workout itself.
And the best part, you save 10% when you buy everything together in the bundle, so you're getting all your recovery essentials in one place.
So if you're serious about training consistently and feeling your best between sessions, this Ultra Pure bundle is definitely worth checking out.
Head over to ultrapurelabs.ie and check out this Ultra Pure Hyrox Recovery Bundle now. That's ultrapurelabs.ie. Train hard, recover smart, and get ready to go again tomorrow. By listening to this advert, you are, of course, supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, well, we've got, mountain running, mountain goats you always bring up when it comes to mountain running. Our next guest, been a little bit behind the camera in terms of great video footage and stuff like that, but doing a lot out there with outsider.ie and all the different mountain runs and building up towards Dublin Marathon this year. And we're already starting to hear that a lot more on the podcast as the weeks and months come closer to the end of October. Dublin Marathon, and lots of advice for this one for Dublin Marathon. With that said, we'll go straight into this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. Our next guest on the Any Given Run Day podcast is a mountain runner. Well, actually, mountain runner is a bit of an understatement. He's two-time and current Irish mountain running champion with countless podium finishes in trail and IMA races around the country over the years, as well as representing Ireland on the world stage and recently representing Ireland in the European 50k Trail Championships. Matthew McConnell, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. How are you getting on?
Good. Thanks very much for having me, lads. Pleasure to be on.
Matt, how do you have time to do laundry?
Yeah, well, we were just talking before we hit record that I often don't have time to do laundry. This is the thing.
My God. Is your favourite animal a goat? I always ask mountain runners this, like what possesses you to want to run up a hill? I always baffle myself. I've done a little bit of it. It's always torture. What got you into, well, let's go back. What got you into sport, and how have you progressed into trail running?
Yeah, I suppose maybe there's something, to quote Mrs. Doyle, maybe I like the misery. I suppose there might be an element of that in the mountain running. But no, like I suppose the sort of sporting history for myself, like played team sports growing up. Like anybody, didn't excel playing any of these sports really whenever I was young, but would have taken it relatively seriously, but was never like on like junior Leinster teams or Ireland teams or anything of that sort, even though some of my friends would have been. And it was always an element of like, I don't know, really looking up to those lads. Like I would have played hockey in school and stuff like that, and a lot of the guys would have made like under 16 Leinster team, under 16 Ireland teams, stuff like this. And I remember looking up to them being like, oh, that would be class to actually like be an international athlete. That like was really, really like alluring as a concept quite early on. And I think maybe it's something that's baked into us as Irish people as well. I think there's quite a lot of pride with like the idea of representing your country at whatever sort of level or whatever sort of discipline that is. I think there's something in that for Irish people in particular that are quite proud of that. But yeah, sort of like played team sports through school. And then towards the end of school, like leaving cert and stuff like that, it's all actually sort of died off a bit. Like I stopped making sort of the A team in school, so I lost interest. And then it was really during college. Whenever I think back, I wasn't really actually playing much sport in college. Wasn't like doing mad partying either, to be honest, and wasn't really doing that much college work, so I'm not sure what I was doing.
Yeah. It was just 4 years, really.
Yeah, but then sort of to cut a relatively long story short, I suppose, found a group of friends. We took a trip down to Kerry in May 2019. They had all represented Ireland either in junior mountain running or orienteering. And we went for a big long run in the McGillicuddy's Reeks, and I was like, this is class. This is actually unbelievable. It was one of those amazing still bluebird summer days in May. And I remember getting down from the mountain that time. I think we did like basically the whole horseshoe in the Reeks, so over Carrantoul and along the ridge and all the rest of it. And I was just like, this is it, man. This is what I'm going to be doing now for the rest of my life. Like I was bitten by the bug very early on. And there was also a path, like I was in with this group of friends now. That trip really sort of solidified our friendship. And I could see a path, like I could see that they had represented Ireland maybe at a junior level or in orienteering, a junior level in mountain running or in orienteering. And I was like, I was actually able to run with them. So maybe there's something in this if I like really focus on this. And then I suppose COVID actually really, in a funny way, kind of really accelerated my progression, I would say, because I was taking the running and taking the training relatively serious and doing lots of like wild stuff in training that I wouldn't be doing now. But just to like fill time, like do ridiculously long hours on the bike and get myself all kinds of injured running around the Dublin mountains. Sticking to my 5K radius, of course. I think that sort of like progressed me on. I think I like maybe developed a bit of an aerobic base, and then whenever racing started to sort of happen again, started to get a couple of wins domestically and get a couple of international opportunities, and I suppose the rest is history, I guess.
But not only that, most people will start with, okay, I'll take on the Sugarloaf, I'll take on Bray Head, I'll do a bit of the Wicklow Way. You took on the biggest mountain range in Ireland for your first one. So does that set a high bar, low bar? How, like, you know, how do you go from that to being like, okay, because people usually go, how do I challenge myself? I'll do the 5 Peaks, I'll do the Munros in Scotland, I'll do, you know, all of these types of things. Yeah. Where does that go from you now? Well, obviously COVID put a dampener on some of that, but
yeah, well, I suppose there's like, in when we think about progression in running, I think there's probably 2 sort of main avenues that people probably go down quite often. Is either like, I want to increase the distance and I want to see how far I can run, and I want to see, like, I want to challenge myself both physically and mentally, and I want to like really push my body. And that's how you end up with people. Like, I have some friends doing like backyard ultras at the weekend, and like that's how you get it. That's how that sort of craze has sort of taken hold, I would say. And then there's also the, I want to perform, like I want to race, I want to do as best I can in this sport, I want to go fast, whatever. So I suppose, where do I go from like one of my first, I suppose, mountain runs being around Carrantoul is like, I wasn't going down the how many times can I run up Carrantoul now, like that. The next progression wasn't like, oh great, in a year's time I hope I can do that run twice. My thought process maybe was more like, oh, how fast could I run up and down Carrantoul? Because I think it was also maybe the environment that I was exposed to was these lads that had like competed in the sport rather than like this run that we did. Like, it took us like 3 or 4 hours, whatever. I can't actually remember exactly, but like it was a big day out. And I remember we were getting the train home the next day and I was in the bin. I was like absolutely exhausted. I remember sitting on the train on the way home being like taking a nap, and they were all talking about like the race they were doing the next day, and they were talking about their easy run that they were going to do that evening when they got home. And like this concept was like completely alien to me at the time. The idea that like you would actually, like, it wasn't like going out into the mountains at the weekend and like having a big blowout in some epic mountains. It was like a methodical like training for an objective. Like, that was completely alien to me, and being exposed to that, I suppose, like that put me on the path of more like performance as opposed to like how far can I go, if that makes sense.
Hydration is key to fueling endurance performance.
Perform Nutrition's Electrolytes Plus sachets have been specifically designed to fill the need for advanced hydration for athletes.
With 1,000 milligrams sodium, all essential electrolytes, and 2,500 milligram performance blend made up of glutamine, taurine, and coconut water powder, one sachet will replenish and revitalize your hydration.
Using natural flavors, natural colors, no added sugar, and no added fillers, each sachet has a sweet and lightly salted fruity flavor and comes in either mixed berry or citrus.
Informed, sport tested, and trusted by Olympians such as Kate O'Connor, world champion boxer Aoife O'Rourke, and pro triathlete Nikki Bartlett, and many more elite athletes.
Trust Perform to fuel your excellence, and by listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode.
That really is a case of product of your environment, because like I went down the longer stuff and I did eco trails, and like I'm even looking at like you did eco trail in 2021. You came second in it. There's other races you did in 2021 you topped. I don't know why I picked that one out first, but like you're like, okay, I can see you getting towards podium stuff, whereas my group is that lad beside me, and then the podcast is like, we're not winning races, so I was like, can I go longer? So like I did the 80k eco trail that year, and I'm looking at you doing the 30. I'm like, oh, I've no business doing the 80, but it was just a different kind of slugfest and stuff. But you seem to get straight in towards those rankings. Was that the goal then to wear the green bib?
Yeah, well, possibly. I think, like, if you dig back through the Eco Trail sort of archive another 2 years, you'll see in 2019 I was like 20-something, like relatively sort of middle of the pack, like 24.
I'm not calling that middle of the pack, top 24. I finished like, I'm pretty sure I was in the bottom 10% of that 80k I finished, and I was well into the 100 pals. So I'm not causing. It was 24 to 321. That's not middle of the pack.
No, that's you getting good value for money with the 80k though. Like, that's what that's called. Yeah, like price per, or like euro per hour, you would be well beaten in that.
That's what I'm good at.
But I suppose in 2019 to go back to that, like I was 24th. I was like delighted with that at the time. I was like, wow, this is class. That was like that was my second ever trail race. I think my first was Balnastow Imra in 2019. August 2019, I think, was my first ever IMRA, or first ever mountain race, trail race. And like, then to go into Eco Trail. But one of the guy who won the 30k Eco Trail that year is a guy called Rory Long, who was on that trip in May with me to the Reeks. So like, that was the path. Like, he was my training partner, even though he like, I remember going to Eco Trail and he won the race, and like I finished the race and I was like, wait, people actually win these things. Like this is actually a thing that people do. Is like people actually, and like to me, Rory was like way ahead of me in terms of like performance, but he was also just one of the lads. So I was kind of like, it really normalized that, maybe that level of performance. And then I suppose, yeah, just sort of like slowly chipping away at trying to maybe close the gap to Rory, and then maybe beat Rory a few times, and then go to trial races and maybe try and make Irish teams. Like that was, I suppose, just a natural progression in my mind.
Can I talk to you about that? Because obviously me and Sean have this healthy competition where I always try and kill Sean in everything we do. And
Sounds so healthy.
Sean always beats me anyway. But when you are looking at that, like you said, it was one of the guys, and it's a training partner, and it's also, can I beat him? So there is that healthy part of it, but how do you manage that and also still, oh, by the way, Rory, can I still get a few tips off you because I'm trying to
Yeah.
beat you next Saturday? How do you manage that? And obviously you've said the desire was seeded now to do better and see how close you could get. So what was the steps from that one to, and as well with your training partner, to be like, okay, I want to go head to head with you in a race?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's like it's probably the very same as what you're experiencing with Shawnee. Like I think it's like, it's very, very similar. It's like Rory and I actually, he lives in Norway now, and I'm going over to visit him in Oslo at the end of August. But like we would have done heaps of running in the Dublin Mountains together in that sort of 2019 to 2022 like period. And we had this kind of like, I say running joke, where like we had these abbreviations, so like AT being aerobic threshold, but there was also HT being humming threshold, because whenever Rory gets to a certain, like we'd go for an easy run on a Thursday evening or whatever on Ticknock just outside Dublin, and whenever we'd get to like just past easy, where the run became a bit steady because we were both sort of pushing each other just that little bit, he'd like let out a little hum to sort of like subconsciously let me know that he's feeling fine, even though we both know that we're like going above easy. So I think that healthy competition was kind of always there, but it was always very playful. Like it was not like, it was all like, even during COVID and stuff, it was like, how fast can you do that Strava segment? And then like, I'll try and beat you and you'll try and beat me. Because realistically, especially like in Ireland, especially like the discipline of mountain running isn't like it definitely is growing in terms of like the competitive end. Like there's definitely more guys and girls now that are like specializing in mountain and trail. But I think historically it hasn't necessarily always been that case. And I feel like unbelievably privileged that like probably three or four of the guys that like represented at junior level that stayed in it to senior level, like I just kind of fell in with that group. And yeah, I think the playful aspect of it, like it was there was never a huge amount of ego in it, like when we were younger, and definitely not now. Like in that group, one of them is now like, he's always been a very good mountain biker, doesn't run that much anymore, but like I still do the occasional easy run with him. Rory and Connell both don't live in Ireland. So like it's kind of like running is just kind of our shared language as a group of friends now, and that's what it's always kind of been. It was never like there was competition there, but it was always playful, I suppose.
Don't want to put a divide into the friend group of your next beers, but they all moved away because they couldn't compete in the national championship.
Yeah. I'm gonna definitely say that to them.
When you look at this, and it's something we always ask, and obviously as you've said, the friction was gone. You fell into a group who knew the way of how this would work. But discovering, going running in the hills is a daunting experience, even for experienced runners. Never mind finding your way and how to do. And I want you to kind of look at this from another lens of say you hadn't got the other guys and you discovered you could do this mountain running, how would you get involved, or what's the first steps to get involved before we look at the rest of your career? Because
Yeah.
we're going to lose people who are interested once we get into the next segment. But
Yeah,
if we were to
100%.
look at
Like,
this from a different lens, how do you
yeah,
make this approachable
I
for
suppose
people?
I was also quite fortunate, I suppose, because like I did a lot of outdoor activities when I was younger as well. Like I would have been in the scouts. I did a lot of hiking, and running in the hills was just a progression from doing like lots of hiking and mountaineering. Like I did a lot of rock climbing in the Alps and like big mountain days in the Alps and stuff like that. So it was kind of just a progression from that. But if I was like just getting into it, or was like looking at some pictures or whatever, or listening to this now, and you're like, geez, doing a couple of runs on the trails in the Dublin Mountains or the Wicklow Mountains or wherever you're from, like if that was where you were at now and you had no idea where to get started, like the number one thing I would say is like get yourself an IMRA membership and start going to IMRA races. Like Irish Mountain Running Association is IMRA, and because I would say 80 to 90% maybe, or like maybe that's unfair, but maybe like 60 or 70% of the people that are in IMRA, it's almost 100% a social thing, and it's like the racing that is happening for those people is like in between their friends or within their age category, or like to beat their time from a previous year, or just to challenge themselves to complete the race, or whatever the case may be, get into a certain percentage of the winner's time, which is something great that IMRA does, is the winner will get 100%, and then say it was an hour race and someone took an hour and a half, their winner's the time of the winner's time, the percentage of the winner's time will be 150. So people might be trying to like close that. So everyone has their own sort of goal within it, and it's very different to like running on the roads, because pace kind of goes out the window to a certain extent, time kind of goes out the window. Like you don't have a 10k race, you have a 10.67k race, because that's what the loop is around the forest. So it's a much more sort of freeing experience from if you're finding that like, oh, I'm like bed into my Garmin or bed into my Coros or whatever whenever I go out for the runs, and it's like almost taking away the fun of it. I think there's definitely something in trail for you then. And I also think that like people probably, like if you've only really done road running and you're taking to the trails, I think you'll be surprised at how capable you'll be. Like I think if you can do a 3-hour hike and you can do a park run, you're well capable of doing 90% of the IMRA races on the calendar. I think a lot of people would like look at them and be like, oh my god, 300 meters of climbing, like that's more than I do in a week. But it's not the same really. And the community of IMRA as well is like so welcoming, that you'll find your tribe there. And then you'll find like people to, like I maybe did, where you find the people that are maybe that little bit better than you, that'll go out on this Sunday long run in the Wicklow Mountains, and before you know it, you're running laps of Carrauntoohil, like.
Matt, we have so much to cover over the next little while on this podcast, and there's so many different ways I want to go with this. I want to jump a little bit to 2005, because I do want to get into European Championships and your build up towards that, which is very relatable to Eric. But before that, you talked about one of your posts about finally finding consistency in 2025, like stringing together months of good training and stuff like that just wasn't there for your previous years. Is that just with work at different things if it stresses outside, or is it just trying to get a good run in trail because of how taxing it is on the body? Is it more taxing the body, the ups and down, and obviously going at your speed, that the risk goes higher, that we will talk about in a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I think I've been I've got an amazing coach as well, which helps a huge amount. Like she's an amazing mountain runner herself. She was actually on the European championship team as well. Her name's Sarah McCormack. She won the World Mountain Running Association, like the World Cup of mountain running in 2019. So very accomplished mountain runner. And I think the consistency that I found maybe in my training over maybe probably from like the end of 2024 kind of since is something that I was never able to really find prior to that, through probably not following a good structured training plan is really what it boils down to. And also following a training plan that was kind of like specific to me and specific to the goals that I was interested in, and doing like specific training for that. Because I was sort of, as I alluded to at the very start, like during COVID, I was doing all sorts of things like fasted training and doing way more training than I probably should have been doing, and lots of ill-advisable like training things, because I was just like coaching myself essentially. And whenever you sort of outsource that to somebody who really knows what they're doing, and you're kind of just the athlete and you're just doing what you're told, it's much easier to like find that consistency. And consistency, like running is a game of momentum, and if you've got that, and it can be a game of positive or negative momentum, but once you hit that positive momentum, like it's really easy to keep it going, and keep that consistency going. And that's where I suppose the magic happens. That's where you maybe have the breakthrough of the plateau, where you make the team, or you have your PB, or whatever the case may be.
Before we get into your training 2026, Dublin Marathon 2025, afterwards on social media, everyone I put up a silly post of, me at the pub, whatever, and everyone's got, their friends recording videos and stuff at it. But then there was also, the first time I noticed, there was like really cool footage, like just proper 4K shit. I'm like, who the hell's recording that? And like one of the videos was the guy who ended up winning the race. There was like a load of the leaders and stuff were trying to pick up the water bottle, and the leader couldn't pick up his bottle, and a volunteer ends up throwing at him, like it's just been seen by thousands of people. People probably see where I'm going with this. The man behind the lens was you, and it's led towards a Dublin Marathon 2026. Doing the footage and stuff you did was absolutely class. But two, when you're watching races like that and watching leaders, like, is it just focus on the job, or is part of you thinking, I want to be out there?
Oh, no, 100%. Like, that's why I've got an entry for Dublin Marathon this year, is like going, and it was myself and a friend of mine who I'm actually in business with, Connell Whelan, who's an excellent sort of videographer. He's used to sort of specialize specifically in running content, but now it's sort of branched out into all sorts of action sports. But myself and him were working together for a couple of different people, getting some clips at Dublin Marathon. And I just thought it would be cool to take a video of the leaders going through taking their bottles. And as you described there, Daniel Mesfin, who ended up winning the race, had to stop and get his bottle thrown to him, which was, it was really cool actually, as somebody who would be wanting to like race Dublin Marathon, or say, to like see how, like, even in that absolute chaos, like, this is somebody who's looking to win this marathon, and he's had to stop and let the leaders go. Like, the composure, there was clearly panic, and there was clearly like angst and stuff like this going on. But the fact that he didn't like catastrophize that whole situation. Now, I haven't talked to Daniel at all, but like, I thought that was really cool to observe, that like, shit goes wrong. Sorry for swearing now, but shit goes wrong for like the very, very best in the sport. And like, it's not what happens to you, but how you sort of deal with it, especially in those sort of race environments where like something can go really wrong. Like you get a stomach problem, or you drop a bottle or whatever. And it's less about what happens, but more about how you deal with it mentally and how you sort of come back from it, especially in the longer races. Like, I think in some shorter races, like, he wouldn't have stopped and waited for his bottle in a 5K, like, but, it's really cool to like watch that. And yeah, even like, I get mad FOMO, even going to like local IMRA races and taking photos or volunteering at those IMRA races. And like, the one thing, like, I'm a relatively emotional guy, and one of the things that like always gets me is like somebody having that breakthrough performance, and somebody like really putting it all on the line, and like you can see the emotion and you can see what it means to them, and you can sort of tell the adversity maybe that they've gone through, either in the training or like in the case of Daniel. Like, I can imagine the elation of crossing the line first in Dublin Marathon when you've missed not one actually, but two bottles on the tables. He ended up missing his 40k bottle as well. He was two lads off the front, missed his 40k bottle, and did the same thing at the 40k to get his bottle with 2k left to run, like 8 minutes of running left, or less than that, like 6 minutes of running left, and he stops and ends up out kicking the guy. Like, I just think that's crazy. Like, I don't know the tactics of like stopping with 2K to go in a marathon. I haven't
I
totally
want to
worked
know
through the
what's in
benefit of
that
that, but
bottle. That's what I want to
yeah,
know.
yeah, what was
Rocket
in that
fuel.
bottle? Like,
Matt, does it scare you? Obviously, you've been around sports. You can move, you can run, but you're in a comfort zone in the hills and at an advantage in comparison to a road runner, I would say, and that's very easy to say. Does it intrigue you, scare you, the road race? Because as you've said and as you've indicated at the start of this is all about performance. You're racing. This is you versus what percentage of the leader are you, is how I'm guessing you're going to set up for this one. But does the road running and the flat racing, is a totally new environment for you, or is this something that excites you or something you're very familiar with?
oh no, definitely exciting. I think. Well, like was it last year? I did a string, like in the winter, I did like a string of road races kind of in the lead into the mountain season to sort of like develop a bit of speed, because a lot of the guys that I would race on the trails are also very fast road runners. And I don't come from that background. Like I didn't really, I was like, I was mountain first and then runner, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
runner first that then went to the mountains. So I suppose I wanted to sort of like go on a bit of a quest for speed, as I called it, and like build up a bit of like lay down a few PBs that I could like sort of hang my hat on and hopefully beat in the coming years. I did a half in Naples in February, and that was kind of just off mountain training, but I'm really intrigued by what I could do in a slightly longer road race for sure. I think I was only just had a phone call with my coach there yesterday, and I was sort of like, in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'll mess around in the mountains for another couple of months, and then like August time, whatever, I'll take to the roads and do a couple of quality like marathon sessions and this, that, and the other, and then jump into Dublin Marathon. And like she sort of gave me a bit of a rude awakening of like, if you want to like a marathon, you don't jump into a marathon. Like you like, we need to think about like a long lead in, and like, because yes, maybe I have the like strength or durability for like going up and down lots of vertical meters, and that's one thing, but the like repetitive nature of running on the road for 42K is a very different sort of strain on the body. So yeah, I'm very I'm probably a little bit nervous, but also like very excited to see what a marathon block and what a marathon could look like in October.
You've started that journey already. You've started vlogging about it. You're on the Rocky Road of Dublin. Talk to me about the emotions of episode 3.
Episode 3, yeah, Trials and Tribulations.
He really looks into your life. He's going to talk about
yeah.
He's going to figure out
follower.
what you did in third class. Oh my God.
No, it was it was a tough old like little chapter, I suppose. Like the so those, I suppose I'll give a bit of backstory. So how you get onto these mountain running teams is IMRA will host trial races, and there'll be like a qualification standard that you have to meet in these qualifying races. And my main focus for like the whole winter, basically since World Champs, I remember I actually had a cup of coffee with my coach the day after my race at the World Champs in September in France, or no, in Spain. And we sort of decided, okay, maybe the 50K next year is something to like go towards. That would be my longest sort of competitive race I've ever done, but I have this sneaky suspicion that I might actually be a bit better at the longer stuff. So anyway, like all of that build up, lots of like focus training over winter, lots of like head torch mountain runs in the Wicklow Mountains in February where it's diabolical weather, and getting the training done, all the rest of it. And then we decided that I would do 2 of the trial races. So I'd do the uphill, sort of as a rust buster kind of tune-up race. And it seemed like a relatively low-risk thing to do. Like it's a mountain that I run up probably twice a week in my training. So like it felt quite familiar, and I knew that I wasn't going to be in good shape to like win the race or whatever, but that was almost the reason to do it, was to like have a really hard race. Anyway, this was a week before the 50K, and I set off, the race was going really well. I was in second position, going down a short descent, before the climb really kicks up towards the summit of Jouse, down to the river, if those that maybe are aware of it. And that's a really, really rocky and sort of loose and quite technical section. And I went over on my ankle, going down this like steep descent, and sort of knew straight away that like, man, my race is done. And it also like, it was that, like, unfortunately it often is part of, it's definitely part of the competitive, it's probably the just a part of mountain running, to be honest, is that you will roll your ankle at some point. Like, it will happen. And I suppose immediately the shift, my mind sort of shifted around how do I actually get myself to the start line of the 50k trial, was actually the first thought that went through my mind. But that was 6 days later, and it became very obvious very quickly that wasn't going to be an option. So had to sort of cross train my way through that. I did about 3 weeks of just really hammering the cross training and the bike and getting in the pool and the sauna and doing all the stuff, just not running. And then slowly reloading the ankle again. I was fortunate enough that IMRA actually selected me for the 50k race off form and off previous performances that I'd had in the year. So I knew that I had that focus of the champs, even though I wasn't able to make the start line of the trial. And then I think that sort of gave me a bit of a chip on the shoulder then in training as well, that I was like, I need to be in good shape for this champs. Like, IMRA have sort of made a gamble on me here, and I definitely don't want to let them down and almost like sort of be taking the spot of somebody else that maybe did do the trial and then not perform on the day. So that was like very, very motivating for me. And then it was tough, like, and I think these things, like, this is all part of the journey, and it's sort of what I was saying about, like, whenever you see that emotion of someone crossing a finish line or whatever, there's so much more to the story that maybe the passive observer maybe doesn't see. Those sorts, and in the age of social media, like, we see a lot, but we don't see it all. We see the things that the person wants us to see. And I, for one, like, I know for sure there's a lot of stuff going on in a lot of athletes' lives that doesn't make the highlight reel on social media, that like makes that finish line, whether it's winning a race, completing a race, or whatever it is for them, makes it all the sweeter, because you've got all that other adversity that you've gone through.
Matt, someone listening to this that may have twisted their ankle recently, what were you doing on that bike to try and get you?
He's alluding to me here, Matt. He's alluding to me and my fat self. I did a 2 kilometer trail run in a forest, and by trail it was flat, and it was a cluster of trees more than a forest. But I went sideways and did 2 ligaments and have contusions on the bone. So I've given up on trail running. Do you know the way you said you fell in with a group of people? I fell out with a group of people. So that could be the end of me. 2.5k, that's all it took to break me. But what is the recovery process from a selfish point of view, and how do you, obviously cross training is something you've mentioned a couple of times. I want you to kind of dive into, is that still a staple in your everyday as well, in your regular build up? Is that something your coach prefers, and how was that recovery?
Yeah, I suppose the recovery was like the sort of mantra that I came up with, like, kind of straight away whenever I rolled my ankle, was kitchen sink. Like, I am throwing the kitchen sink at this ankle to, like, get myself right. And to be honest, I was more interested, like, in that time, I was so in the mindset of, like, performance and, like, making, like, I was training for a 50k, like, and I was in really good nick. So I was like, I want to like maintain my fitness, but beyond that, I actually want to see if I can build fitness while cross training, and then like come back to running and actually be fitter potentially. Now, like, cycling is some faff, like compared to running, it's some faff. Like, I was going to go out for a short spin in the sun to clear the head before I sat down with you lads, and I like had to change I literally was out there for about half an hour putting new tires on my bike, and then I realized that I bought the wrong size of tire, and I'm like, oh my god, the faff. But what I was doing sort of in those 3 weeks post ankle twist. And like not necessarily prescribing this for anyone. It sort of depends the severity of like what injury you had or whatever. But I was like hammering it. I did like 350k on the bike every single week with loads of climbing. Was in the pool, did like 2 or 3 swims a week, was in the sauna as often as I could. Like I kind of didn't see my girlfriend or my dogs for like 3 weeks because like absolutely every waking minute I was like, what can I do to sort of like keep putting that aerobic deposit in the bank and keep this heart pumping. And I also knew that like cycling is actually like for a twisted ankle, especially like getting the inflammation down is kind of like quite a big part of it. And cycling is like excellent for that because it's not necessarily weight bearing and you are constantly moving the joint. So it's like moving the inflammation out of the joint because you're sort of the way that you'd move inflammation out of the ankle joint is by pumping the calf. So it's like that's what cycling is essentially. So it like helps bring down the inflammation. And then also like another massive shout out to my physio, Rachel Neary in Dean's Grange. Like she's just incredible. Like she's such a good physio. And especially for me, like we get on really, really well. And like just doing all the right things. I think it's really easy. The easy part is like going to the physio and having the physio give you a diagnosis and like tell you, you need to do. In my case, Rachel loves calf raises. She's like convinced that my calves are like my biggest, like my Achilles heel, if you will. And like she wants me to do like 200 calf raises a day. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't. But like actually trying your best to actually do the physio exercises, as boring as they seem. And yeah, I think time as well, like time just heals all. So, just sort of doing all the right things, I guess. And then like in terms of cross training, just in day-to-day training, like getting out on the bike for a couple of hours a week is something that I'd do every week. The pool, less so. I kind of want to get in the pool a little bit more because I used to swim when I was a kid and I quite enjoy swimming. And you actually always feel really like loose and nice afterwards. And if you're down in the pool, you're going to go into the sauna afterwards and all that sort of stuff. So that's quite nice. But yeah, the bike is something that I would always be kind of implementing. It would be a part of every training week is a couple of rides, more so for recovery rather than training. It's like instead of doing maybe a double run, I'd do a ride or something like that.
And what's the percentage of that, Matt, out of curiosity? For example, if you're supposed to do a 60-minute run, do you do like a 2-hour cycle? Is there a formula there for how long you cycle to run?
Yeah, well, like I'm just really following the training plan. Okay. So I would say it's probably not far off that. I would actually say like your heart doesn't know what exercise you're doing. So like an hour at a certain heart rate is an hour at a certain heart rate, and like your heart's going to adapt to that. So like if you're running and your easy run heart rate is like 140 beats a minute or whatever, and then you go for a bike ride and you can ride your bike at 140 beats a minute, then I'd say it's almost like for like in terms of like training the heart. Now, obviously, like the legs and stuff like that, you can do way more on the bike, and that's why people would do longer cycles than they would runs. But then also there was another thing I wanted to say there about the bike, but it's gone out of my head now. But like it's such a good tool for runners, I would say. Anyone that's like struggling with maybe overuse injuries or even just looking to sort of freshen things up a little bit in their training, like throwing a bit of bike in there. Like there's a running content creator, Ben is Running, I think is his tag. Ben Felton is his name, and he used to like very good marathon runner. I think he's a 2:22 marathon runner. Has run 63, I think, in the half, but like really, really good runner. Jeez. And he used to bang out like 100-mile weeks in marathon training. And then in recent times has actually like cut down to like 70 or 80 miles a week, but he'll do more cycling. And then the fact that his body's fresher because he's not doing that much pounding on the body actually means that he can do better workouts, so you can actually get fitter and get faster. So it's kind of seems a bit counterintuitive. Like there is an argument that like you run more to get better at running, but there also gets a point, and it's different for everybody, that like maybe 70-30 is like the optimal for somebody, and then maybe somebody else it's like they can run way more and they don't need to do any cycling because they can deal with the sort of pounding. But it's different for everybody, I guess.
It was definitely something I picked up. I got into triathlon out of stubbornness. Couldn't swim, couldn't do anything in 2019, and we did a marathon in 2019, probably still my best one to date. And unbeknownst to myself, and I carried an injury for the last 7 weeks of training, so it wasn't even a clean entry into the marathon. It was just the fittest I had been with minimum effort, because I only ever trained for Olympic level. It wasn't anything big. It was just putting in the odd hour on the bike here, the odd run, and I just found my running was improving exponentially. And that's I'm a bigger guy. I'm 95 kilos. It's a lot of mass to move, and putting all that pressure onto the knees, the joints, and all those things. The cycling, I actually found really complemented it. It's hard to, as you said, the gear, when Zwift came around, I thought that was the greatest invention ever, because it didn't matter. I'm definitely a fair weather cyclist. If the breeze is coming from a certain direction, I won't go out. But to have the indoor setup for me, once you get over the mental battle of it, there was no excuse. It was just climb on and start. And that's one element I loved in it. And that's why I admire mountain runners, especially in February with head torches and everything else, because there's a certain level of determination, grit, and stupidity that comes with that one.
Yeah, for sure. But to be honest, I think there's something Rocky montage about like going out into the mountains when it's like lashing with hail, or you almost get surprised by a hailstorm, but you're up some mountain in the Wicklow Mountains. I think there's something kind of hardcore about it, safely with all the right gear and know where you're going. And all the rest of it. But yeah, I also have like the turbo in my shed, and like that was definitely a big part of the sort of road to recovery post ankle sprain as well, was like it's almost worrying how hard you can work on Zwift or on the turbo, like because you're not stopping at traffic lights, you're not looking at dogs running out in front of you or worried about cars or pedestrians.
There's no freewheeling.
It's literally like you can close your eyes and push hard, and doing like, I don't know, 5 or 6 by 8 minutes on the indoor turbo will get you very fit.
Yeah, it's one of the things I realize as well very quickly is the minute you stop pedaling, it stops. Your cyclist climbs off on screen as well. So like, there's no freewheel, there's no downhill recovery. It is a hard hour. It's a really hard hour. So
and that's actually just to go back to the bike. Just the one thing that I was going to say is like, yes, it's like for like in terms of you want, like, say your easy run heart rate's 140 and you could do 140 on the bike. If you're not like accustomed to doing lots of cycling, you might actually find it quite hard to get to 140 beats a minute on the bike, because like you won't have the muscles to actually push enough power to achieve that. So it's actually like, it's not about jumping on and spinning your legs. Like this is something like that's actually only changed relatively recently in my mind, is like junk miles in terms of like running is like maybe a bit of a debated topic, but in my mind, junk miles in terms of like spending time on the bike is like way more obvious in my mind. Like if I jumped on and you just like spin your legs on a flat road and your heart rate's not even 100, and like, what are you doing? Like you'd go, like you might as well, I don't know, sit on the couch. Well, not exactly, but like it's not going to be like for example. Yeah, you do need to just push. You do actually need to keep the chain tight, like, you know.
Yeah. Because Eric is I want a lot more used and a lot better on the bike than I'll ever be. We even had this discussion in the podcast last year on like the Fantastic Four and lead up to it. I was saying the same thing, that if I'm on the bike, if I'm cruising like people be cruising, like I don't, for some reason the watch doesn't seem accurate for the heart rate, especially when I'm cycling. Like I feel like I'm out of breath, and I look down and it says 110 and I'm like, I can't be. And if I start pushing really hard, it'll go 140, but I'm not going longer than 2 minutes on it. I'm like, my legs and everything feel goose. And to your point, that's why I asked that question earlier about the 2 hours to 1 hour kind of thing, because I find it very hard to be, I almost have to do like exercises off the bike, get my heart rate up, and then my heart rate's up, hop on the bike now and try and maintain that then and go as fast. I want to touch on two quick things before I talk about the European Championships. One is the sauna and the pop-up sauna and stuff like that. You talk about how much that helps. And two is there's a lot of great pictures of you. You're wearing the green bib and stuff, doing the runs, the mountains and all the rest. You have something around your nose, Matt. Talk to me about that, because I don't want to talk about someone on Expo at it because they're trying to sell me on it. I want to talk about someone that's performing at a very high level. And you mentioned the half marathon earlier. You was 68 minutes or something you did in that. So you perform at a very high level. I'm going to listen to you on it because you're not trying to sell it to me. Talk to me about the nose strips and talk to me about these pop-up sauna tents.
Well, I'll probably the most like if I was listening to this podcast and I didn't know about either of those things, I'd probably be more curious about the pop-up sauna. So I'll hit that one first. I'm mad for, like, I love the sauna. I have there's a sauna opened up in the village just like a mile from where I live now. So I spend a lot of time in that. It's Creelawn down in Enniskerry. Michael is just an absolute G. But I'm in that basically as much as I can be. But the pop-up sauna you're talking about is a company called Bast, B-A-S-T. It's a Swedish company. And it's like a sauna tent, but it has like an actual wood-burning stove in it. And I can put it up in my back garden and I can go you can like light up the stove and it can be as hot as like one of those professional saunas or hotter than like a sauna you'd find in a gym, unless it's a good one that you'd find in a gym. Like you can easily get it to 100 degrees, just like putting in wood as you would like in your stove at home. But the sauna, like it depends. Like sometimes the thing that I'll more so follow is like a heat training protocol where it's more about like spending time in it and getting the heart rate up and stuff like that. And then sometimes it's more about recovery. It's about like sort of hot cold, getting the blood moving in the legs in like a really passive way. And it's kind of like a nice social thing as well. Like I'll meet friends and go into the sauna down in Enniskerry and we'll chat for an hour and then you leave feeling amazing and you sleep so well. There's like ridiculous amount of benefit to sauna, as I'm sure most people are aware at this point. But the pop-up one is kind of a game changer if you're looking to if you do quite a lot of it and it's a bit of a faff for you to get to a sauna or you don't have a gym membership. Like having one in your back garden is, I'll admit it's a luxury, but it's like definitely a luxury worth if you're like really, really into it.
See, people were trying to sell having an ice bath in your garden, but now you have spoke my language. A sauna in the garden is definitely a nicer entry than that.
It's really not that hard to like set up and take down. Like I could probably go from like it being in my shed to like sitting in it sweating in like 35 minutes. Like it takes barely any time to set up. It's like a little pop-up. And then like you get the chimney in it, put the stones on it, light it up, and it's like hot within 20 minutes, I'd say. But yeah, it's class. Yeah, really, really good.
And what's the maintenance on something like that? Because I tell you why I say this, because I'm a bit of a cheapskate, and the odd time I think will get me. I would never going to get sponsored by them. I've finished the story, Eric, but I'm going to finish it anyway. They have this thing called NeuroCover, and they have like smaller pop-ups and the plug-in, and it gets up to like 100. They say it's the same as a regular sauna. Well, if anyone's watched this online, there it is in the background there. That thing,
look at that
small little
thing.
thing. Neve once walked in on me just sitting there watching it. She said it was the most miserable thing she saw in her life. I had like an episode of Seinfeld at the end of it, just sitting there watching it. It just looked so depressing. But the max, now, it works for me because I'm a little baby in a sauna, but the max that thing gets to is like 75 degrees. It doesn't... now I'm sweating in it, and as soon as I step outside I feel like I'm freezing, but like you said a second ago, like 100 degrees, and I don't even know if 75 is enough to get the benefit you should be getting out of it. But it was like 300 quid, the plugs in, it stays plugged in instead of setting it up. But cheap, cheerful, not too sure it does a business for me. That's why I'm interested when you say setting up this thing outside is the difference. We're not getting sponsored off them, Mark.
I mean, you're definitely getting like a sweat response, like adaptation from 75 degrees, which is one of the biggest benefits to one of the benefits anyway to like heat training is you train your sweat response to like basically turn on sooner so you can cool
Okay.
yourself down, because like humans are really inefficient and we overheat really easily. So that's one of the benefits to it. But then I suppose the other question you had was about the nose strips.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I'm like a bit of a dork for like the 1%er stuff.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
sort of went down a bit of a rabbit hole of like buying a few of them just off Amazon and like sort of throw them on. And like the thing, I don't have a deviated septum. I don't struggle with breathing through my nose. I have a perfectly well proportioned nose, as you can see. It's big enough. It's big enough as it is. But it was more I was actually getting quite a lot of stitches in really high intensity hill races where like I would go from climbing to descending, and the nose strip was an attempt to sort of open up my airways and like remind me to breathe through my nose in those moments a little bit. And now it's also like I'll like have albus oil and like smell the albus oil before a race, like kind of clear out my airways a bit. It's kind of like this kind of slightly gross protocol that I would do like before races now, is like I'll have like an albus oil like cotton bud essentially and like have it in my nose to like clear out my airways, and then I'll put the strip on. I really don't know, like there's no real science to say that they're massively performance benefiting, but it's more like a psychological kind of reminder for me to like calm the breathing down and think about nasal breathing. And also in like longer races, you're obviously taking on quite a lot of fuel, and when you're doing that, you're not breathing through your mouth. So to not be out of breath when you're taking a gel or you're drinking your, in my case, Ultra Speed Dust, out of your salt flask, you're able to then like keep breathing through your nose and like take on that fuel. And I think that was maybe something that was causing stitches as well, is like the holding the breath and like tensing up the sort of stomach muscles, and then a stitch might come on as a result of that. There's an Irish brand actually, VO. They've sent me out a bunch of them and I'm going to be using them in future. Their like stick is really, really good on them. Like all the like crappy ones I got on Amazon and stuff almost always peel off after like 60 minutes. Whereas these like stay on, like they stayed on for the entire 50k at Euros. Just one strip stayed on, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know if it makes a huge difference.
Snippets. Some
Pardon
amount.
me?
We're gonna have to charge everyone €1 million now.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've turned into a little bit of a
you're
billboard.
good. You're good. I thought you were going to mention Al Keen's negative split in the cap there to cap that one off.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet hat.
It is.
Talk to us about, because when we spoke last, you were gearing. We were talking about podcast, and you were like, "Well, actually, I'm just about to do a 50k championship." How was that? And what is that feeling like of finally wearing the green jersey?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like it's always such a it's a privilege to get the opportunity to wear green. It's something that the Irish Mountain Running Association like really put a lot of effort into the sort of high performance side, as well as what I was saying before about IMRA being really community focused and like really focused on like participation and all that, which it is. But they also put a huge amount of funding behind the high performance program and like sending teams to championships and international races. So amazing to get that opportunity. The champs themselves are always like, the standard is just incredibly high, as I'm sure you can imagine. And just even sort of competing and being in the mix with these like literally best in the sport athletes is amazing. Like you're in sort of the starting pen and you're warming up and you're like, oh, that's the world champion, that's won UTMB, like all these sorts of things, and they're just surrounded by you. So that's like really, really cool. For me, I think it was kind of like, it was a I couldn't be unhappy with it kind of day. Like first competitive 50k, which is kind of outrageous that's where I make my 50k debut. But also with the lead in with the ankle, and then I also had some other like sort of setbacks in the weeks leading into it as well. That sort of were cropping up at a time where I was like, geez, will I even make the start line of this thing? But the body sort of came right at the right time, and the the champs were amazing and definitely like a good starting point for this sort of like slightly longer, maybe mountain races that I will hopefully take on for the coming years.
Matt, there's so much more we can go into, but I think we're running out of time on it. You got so much going on. You do a lot with Outsider.ie and stuff like that, European Championships. You've got the Dublin Marathon coming up, your videography business. There's a shit ton you got going on right now. How do you find the time to train?
Training is almost always the number one priority, which sometimes either life partners or business partners find a little bit frustrating, I'm sure. But for me, they complement each other. Like if I didn't prioritize the time to train, then I wouldn't be as good like business owner, I guess, or like all these different things. They all complement each other, and the best ideas come when you're out on the trails. So yeah, that's sort of the answer for that one.
And is outsider.ie, Matt, is that part of the business, or is that all of, or what is outsider.ie?
Yeah, so outsider.ie, formerly Outsider Magazine. It's a company that's been in business like 25 years, and myself and Connell Whelan bought the company at the end of last year. And it now, for those that don't know, we have an Instagram page, but we also have a website, newsletter, all that sort of crack. And it's a digital media business, photography, videography website, promoting the Irish outdoors essentially. So, like where to hike, what gear to wear, all that, what events to go to, all that sort of stuff, and really sort of championing this amazing country that we live in for outdoor activities. Like, I don't think really many people really dispute that we're very lucky to have a country that's safe to like go out and explore, and like we have a relatively temperate climate. We can hike in the mountains year round. Like we're very fortunate in that regard. So Outsider's all about like championing that and getting people active and getting people outdoors. And yeah, that's the day job, I suppose, or part of.
Matt, just before we wrap up then, outside.ie, what would the recommendations be for throughout the summer? And then for those doing marathon, even though you don't have marathon experience, you have a lot of running experience, and you have a big inner circle of people, obviously through outside.ie, your videography business and everything else that you can lean on for marathon advice. So
yeah,
do you have any part in marathon advice to people? And do you have any advice on where to hit or what kind of events to do throughout the summer?
I think my number one piece of marathon advice would be not to listen to someone who's never run a marathon on a podcast.
That's smart. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
He's writing that one down. See, like that was a good one.
Taking notes.
Well, Matt, we have ran many, and I still wouldn't listen to us, and we own the podcast. So
it's people on.
It's good. We were hoping you'd have this wisdom for us, but
no.
Further, that is it sticking with your coach now? Is that your advice anchor now for the next little while, as you already alluded to, or is there anyone else you're gonna compete with that will eventually move to another country?
Compete with, I'm not so sure, but I am actually going to Font Remo for a short little stint of altitude before Dublin with Mick Fox and Stephen McCauley beforehand. So they're like, I am very fortunate that there's quite a few guys that like I would have phone numbers of that I could call up if I had specific marathon questions. But definitely listening to my coach that I pay to coach me will be my number one piece of advice.
I'm sure Mick has a pair of alpha flies he'll lend you for a marathon as well. No bother.
Yeah.
Matt, very best luck with Dublin Marathon. We definitely do part two. There's so much we didn't touch on. Like even you're a 2-time Irish mountain running champion. I don't even know how you become an Irish mountain running champion. Well, I did the research. Got to do a couple of races with at least 3 of them. So I did that part so people know now. But we need to talk more about that. So we definitely need a part 2 and find out how you get on Dublin Marathon. And with that said, very best luck with that. And that is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. And myself, Matt and Eric, take care.